All right, so today we're going deep on healthy eating,
Ooh, fun.
but with a bit of a twist.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Our source material is actually a faith-based podcast script.
Interesting. So are we going to be talking about like fasting or something?
Well, we'll get into all that, but
Yeah.
first I got to know,
Yeah.
what do you think about when you hear healthy eating, but from a faith-based perspective?
Honestly, my first thought is like, what does religion have to do with food? You know?
Right.
But thinking about it more, it does make you consider like the whole body as a temple idea.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That it's like a sacred thing to be taken care of.
Exactly. And this script really leans into that.
Okay, I'm ready to dig in.
So the first thing that jumps out is this emphasis on whole foods,
Makes sense.
like fruits, veggies, grains, that sort of thing.
Yeah, the back to basics approach.
Right. And the script even goes all the way back to Genesis,
Oh, wow.
where God provides those plants and fruits for food. It's almost like saying, hey, this is the original blueprint.
Interesting. So does that actually hold up though? Like scientifically?
Well, that's what I was wondering too.
Yeah.
And it turns out there's a lot of modern science that backs up this whole foods focus.
Oh, really? Like what?
We'll take fiber, for example.
Okay.
The script talks a lot about how whole foods are packed with fiber.
Yeah.
And we know that it's important for digestion.
Right. Keeps things moving.
Exactly. But it goes beyond that. Fiber actually acts as a prebiotic.
A prebiotic.
Yeah. It feeds the good bacteria in your gut.
Oh, I've heard about that. The gut microbiome.
Right.
All those little microbes doing their thing.
And get this, a healthy gut microbiome is linked to all sorts of things, like a stronger immune system, better mental health even.
Wow. So it's like we have this whole ecosystem inside of us.
Totally. And we got to keep those good bacteria happy.
Makes you think twice about what you're putting in your body.
For sure. And speaking of science catching up, the script's emphasis on whole foods also aligns with what we know about antioxidants.
Oh, yeah. Antioxidants. Everyone's always talking about those.
Right. But I feel like sometimes it's a bit of a buzzword. Like, what do they actually do?
Well, think of it this way.
Yeah.
Your cells are constantly under attack from these things called free radicals.
Okay.
They're basically unstable molecules that can damage cells and lead to aging and all sorts of problems.
Wow, that sounds bad.
It is. But antioxidants are like the superheroes that come in and neutralize those free radicals.
Okay, I like that analogy.
And where do we find these superhero antioxidants?
I guess. In whole foods.
Ding, ding, ding. Especially those colorful fruits and veggies.
So it's like every time I eat a blueberry, I'm sending in a tiny little army to fight off those bad guys.
You got it.
I love that.
It's pretty amazing how it all works together. And we haven't even talked about whole grains yet.
Oh, right, there's more.
Oh, yeah. They're not just a good source of fiber, but they're also packed with B vitamins,
Okay.
which are essential for energy, brain function, even DNA synthesis.
So basically, they're like little powerhouses. Okay, so we're seeing how this whole idea of embracing whole foods really does have some scientific backing.
It's like ancient wisdom meeting modern science.
But the script doesn't just tell us to eat our veggies and call it a day.
Right.
It also emphasizes the importance of educating ourselves about food. It even quotes Proverbs saying, the beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom.
Makes sense. We can't just blindly follow whatever diet fad is trending.
Exactly, especially today with social media and all the conflicting information out there.
Ugh, it's so overwhelming sometimes.
Right. 1 minute avocado toast is a health food. The next minute, it's public enemy #1.
Seriously, so how are we supposed to navigate all of that?
Well, the script actually connects this idea of educating ourselves about food to a quote from Romans 12.2.
Okay, I'm curious.
It talks about not conforming to the patterns of this world.
Interesting.
And it seems to be saying that we shouldn't just blindly buy into all the marketing and trends.
Yeah, like all those flashy labels and promises.
We need to look beyond the surface and make informed choices.
But how do we even know where to find reliable information these days? It's like everyone's an expert.
Well, that's where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
It's about questioning what we see and hear.
Not just taking things at face value.
Exactly. Evaluating the sources.
Looking for evidence-based research.
So instead of trusting that influencer who's selling detox tea, maybe we should check out websites from reputable organizations.
Yeah, like the Mayo Clinic or the National Institutes of Health.
Exactly. Places that are grounded in science and research.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're not just blindly following the latest fad.
We're becoming informed consumers.
I like that. So we've talked about whole foods and education. What else does this faith-based approach have to say about healthy eating?
Well, there's one more thing that I think is super relevant, especially with our digital lives.
Oh, okay. Lay it on me.
It's about the dangers of social media when it comes to our relationship with food.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
I'll admit I've definitely fallen into the comparison trap, scrolling through Instagram and feeling bad about my own food choices.
Oh, totally. It's like everyone else is effortlessly making these gourmet meals, and I'm over here struggling to get my kids to eat a vegetable.
Exactly. And the script actually uses this really powerful analogy. It compares the impact of what we see to a quote from Matthew about the eye being the lamp of the body.
Hmm. So what we feed our minds can be just as important as what we feed our bodies.
That's exactly it. And
Yeah.
research actually backs this up.
Really?
Yeah, there have been studies showing a link between social media use and negative body image, disordered eating, even feelings of inadequacy.
Wow, that's pretty scary.
It is. So how do we escape this social media comparison trap? Do we need to go off the grid completely?
Well, that's one option.
Right.
But there are other strategies too. The script talks about being more mindful of what we consume online. Okay, so like being selective about who we follow and what we engage with.
Exactly. Unfollowing those accounts that trigger negative feelings and following accounts that promote body positivity and realistic portrayals of food.
Yeah, and focusing on creating a healthy relationship with food that goes beyond likes and filters.
That's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that social media often presents this curated, filtered version of reality.
Right, and true nourishment comes from within.
I love that. So we've unpacked 3 key tips from this faith-based approach to healthy eating: embracing whole foods, educating ourselves, and navigating the world of social media mindfully. But how do we actually put all of this into practice?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore in more depth in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into the science behind these tips and discuss practical strategies for integrating them into your daily life.
Stay tuned, because things are about to get really delicious in a nutritious way, of course.
We're back.
Yeah, diving deeper into this whole healthy eating thing.
And I gotta say, this faith-based script is really making me think about things in a new way.
Me too. Like, it's not just about following rules. It's about this deeper understanding of our bodies and our connection to something bigger.
Totally, and it's interesting how it seamlessly blends ancient wisdom with modern science.
Yeah, like the emphasis on whole food.
It's like they were ahead of their time advocating for what we now consider to be the foundation of a healthy diet.
Oh, okay, so let's break it down even further. How do these whole foods actually benefit us on a scientific level?
Well, let's talk about whole grains for a sec.
Okay.
They're not just a good source of fiber, like we talked about before, but they're also packed with specific types of antioxidants.
Oh, like what kind?
Like ferulic acid and lignans. Ever heard of those?
Not really.
Well, they've been linked to a reduced risk of certain cancers and heart disease.
Wow, so it's not just about eating good foods and avoiding bad foods. There's actual science happening at a cellular
Oh,
level.
absolutely. It's all about those antioxidants.
Okay, so we've talked about them before, but remind me again, how do antioxidants actually work?
So our bodies are constantly fighting off something called oxidative stress.
Oxidative stress.
Yeah, it's caused by these unstable molecules called free radicals.
Oh, right, those little troublemakers.
Exactly. They can damage our cells and contribute to all sorts of chronic diseases.
So antioxidants are like the peacekeepers.
You got it. They neutralize those free radicals and protect our cells from harm.
It's like a constant battle going on inside us.
That's a great way to put it. And different types of antioxidants have different strengths and benefits.
So, like, what are some examples?
Remember those bright red berries we talked about?
Yeah.
They're rich in anthocyanins, which have powerful anti-inflammatory properties. And some studies suggest they can even improve brain function.
Wow, so it's like I'm giving my brain a boost every time I eat strawberries.
Something like that. And those B vitamins we talked about earlier, they're not just found in whole grains, but also in leafy greens, beans, and even some meats.
Okay, so we're getting a good mix of nutrients from a variety of whole foods.
Exactly. It's all about balance and variety. And speaking of balance, the script also talks about the importance of education.
Right, not just blindly following fads or trends.
Yeah, it's like they're encouraging us to be critical thinkers, to not accept information at face value.
So if I see a headline claiming that chocolate is a superfood, I shouldn't run out and buy a year's supply of candy bars.
Probably not a good idea. It's about looking for credible sources, scientific studies and information from reputable organizations like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
So how do I know if a source is credible? Like, what are some red flags?
Well, be wary of sources that make grand promises or claim to have a miracle cure. Look for evidence-based information, not just anecdotes or testimonials.
So personal stories aren't always the best indicator.
Not necessarily. You also want to check the author's credentials. Do they have a background in nutrition or a related field?
It makes sense. So I'm basically becoming a detective.
Exactly. You're investigating the information before you buy into it.
I like that. But even with all the knowledge in the world, there's still that pull of social media.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It's like this constant pressure to have the perfect body and eat the perfect foods.
And the script acknowledges that it can be a real struggle.
Yeah, it talks about how what we see online is often carefully curated and unrealistic.
Right. It's easy to fall into the comparison trap and feel inadequate.
Totally. I've definitely been there.
So what's the antidote to this social media madness?
Well, the script emphasizes mindfulness.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's about shifting our focus from external pressures to our own internal cues.
What do you mean by internal cues?
It's about tuning in to your body's natural signals of hunger and fullness, paying attention to how different foods make you feel.
So basically listening to our bodies.
That's a great way to put it. It's about developing a sense of intuition around what truly nourishes us.
So instead of mindlessly scrolling through Instagram while I eat, I should be savoring each bite, appreciating the flavors and textures.
Exactly. It's about being present in the moment.
And this idea of mindful eating actually ties in beautifully with the script's spiritual perspective.
Oh, how so?
Well, if we view our bodies as sacred spaces, shouldn't we treat them with respect and reverence?
That's a beautiful way to think about it. So mindful eating becomes an act of honoring and appreciating the gift of nourishment.
Exactly. It's about slowing down, being grateful for the food we have, and recognizing that every meal is an opportunity to nourish not just our physical bodies, but also our souls.
I love that. It's not about deprivation or restriction. It's about cultivating a positive and respectful relationship with food.
And remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about progress, not perfection.
Every small step counts.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from the science of whole foods to the mindful approach of honoring our bodies as temples.
And it all ties back to this idea of recognizing that our bodies are more than just physical vessels. They're connected to something greater.
And that brings us to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the closing thoughts of this faith-based script. It offers a powerful message about seeking guidance and finding strength beyond ourselves.
I'm ready for it. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive, and I'm really excited to see where this faith-based approach to healthy eating takes us.
Yeah, me too. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've talked about the science of whole foods, the importance of education, and even the impact of social media.
And how all of that ties back to this idea of honoring our bodies as temples.
Exactly. And now the script ends with this beautiful prayer.
Oh, a prayer.
Yeah, it's a prayer for strength and wisdom on this journey of nourishing ourselves.
That's interesting. I haven't really thought about food in that way before.
Right. It's like the script is acknowledging that sometimes willpower and knowledge alone aren't enough.
We need something deeper to guide us.
Exactly. And this prayer really highlights the role of faith and spirituality in our relationship with food.
You know, that's something we haven't really talked about directly, but it's been woven throughout this whole conversation.
It's like this underlying current running through everything.
Yeah, and this prayer really brings it to the surface.
So what does the prayer actually say?
Well, it's pretty long, but the gist of it is about seeking guidance in making choices that nourish and strengthen us, not just physically, but also mentally and spiritually.
Oh, I like that.
And it asks for peace in our minds and hearts as we navigate the complex world of food and body image.
That's so important. It's easy to get caught up in all the pressures and expectations.
Absolutely. And what I find really striking about this prayer is how it emphasizes trusting in a higher plan, surrendering to something beyond our own limited understanding.
Oh, there's a powerful concept.
It's like a reminder that we don't have to have all the answers, that we can lean on something greater than ourselves for support.
I think that's really comforting, especially for anyone who's struggled with making healthy choices or feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to be perfect,
It's a permission slip to let go of the need for control.
and trust that there's a path unfolding before us.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from micromanaging every calorie and macro to cultivating a sense of peace and gratitude for the nourishment that sustains us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this final thought from the script.
Okay, I'm listening.
If our bodies truly are temples, what kind of offerings are we making through our food choices?
Whoa, that's deep.
Right. It's not about judgment or guilt, but about awareness and intention.
It's a challenge to be more mindful and thoughtful about what we put into our bodies.
Exactly. And to recognize that every meal is an opportunity to nourish not just our bodies, but also our spirits.
And that's what this whole deep dive has been about, hasn't it?
It really has. It's been about exploring a different perspective on healthy eating, one that goes beyond the physical and taps into something deeper.
It's about finding what works for you, honoring your body's unique needs, and making choices that align with your values and aspirations.
And recognizing that true nourishment comes from a place of love, respect, and gratitude.
Beautifully said. I think this faith-based approach has a lot to offer, even for those who don't necessarily identify with any specific religion.
I totally agree. It's about connecting to something bigger than ourselves, whether that's faith, spirituality, or simply a deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of our physical, mental, and spiritual well-being.
Well said. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into healthy eating. We hope it's inspired you to think differently about your relationship with food and to approach your choices with a renewed sense of purpose and awareness.
Remember, every meal is a sacred act, an opportunity to connect with something greater than ourselves. And